Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. When Sharon said yes, I thought I'd won the lottery. She was sharp, confident, and the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking in. I liked her ambition. She liked that I was steady. I'm Bradley, 34, a civil engineer. I plan things. I don't gamble. When I proposed, she said she admired that about me, that I was safe. We'd been married for 3 days when we landed in Bali for our honeymoon. I'd saved for months, booked us a private villa that sat on a cliff above the sea. It wasn't the resort's top suite, but it was beautiful, peaceful, and fully paid for. The first day, Sharon took photos of everything: the pool, the bed, the breakfast tray. She checked the angles, frowned, and deleted most of them. "Lighting's bad," she muttered. I laughed, poured her a drink, and told her to relax. She smiled thinly and went back to scrolling through her phone. By the second evening, I could feel the distance. She'd sigh whenever a new couple passed by our table, dressed in matching linen, holding hands. She complained the villa didn't have a butler service like other places. I brushed it off, trying not to make a scene. Then, during dinner on the terrace, she looked over the railing and whispered, almost to herself, "My ex would have gotten me the suite." I looked up from my plate. "Sorry, what?" She didn't blink. Nathan. He'd never settle for second best. There was a long silence. I smiled. Not the warm kind. "Let me fix that." Her face softened instantly, like a child promised a toy. "Really? You'd do that for me?" I nodded, lifted my glass, and took a slow sip. Inside, I wasn't planning an upgrade. I was planning my exit. The next morning, Sharon was back to herself, cheerful, humming while she packed her beach bag. You'd think last night hadn't happened. I watched her from the balcony, already rehearsing the day for her Instagram stories. Over breakfast, she stirred her coffee and said casually, "You know, Nathan always said a man's generosity shows in how he treats his woman. Not that I'm comparing, of course." I nodded, pretending to listen, but inside I was filing every word. "That's interesting," I said, keeping my tone flat. She smiled. "You're such a practical guy, Bradley. I guess that's why I married you. Nathan was all flash, no stability. I needed someone grounded." I caught that word, needed. It didn't sound like love. It sounded like math. The day drifted by. She spent hours taking pictures by the pool. When she wasn't posing, she was scrolling through her phone. I didn't ask who she was texting. I didn't need to. That evening, she came out of the bathroom in a silk robe, smelling like perfume and complaint. "Bradley, don't get me wrong," she said. "This place is nice." But Nathan always booked the villas with private butlers. He said a woman should never have to call reception herself. I didn't flinch. I just stared at her. She mistook my silence for guilt and smiled slightly, victorious. "Maybe," she said, "we can upgrade. It would be more romantic." "Maybe," I said. "Tell you what, I'll handle it tomorrow." "You deserve better." Her eyes brightened. "See? That's why I married you." She kissed me on the cheek and walked toward the mirror, checking her reflection. I sat there, watching the waves through the sliding doors. My chest felt empty, but my head was clear. If she wanted luxury, I'd give her space, all the way back to herself. That night, while she slept, I emailed the resort concierge, booked her a full spa day, and quietly arranged a flight home. Sharon left early the next morning for her bridal renewal spa treatment, the one I had so generously upgraded. She kissed my cheek, said, "You're the sweetest," and walked out in her white robe, humming like a woman who thought she'd won. The moment the door closed, I started moving. I packed my bag in 10 minutes, folded everything neatly, and checked the room one last time. Her side of the bed was scattered with cosmetics and tangled jewelry. I didn't touch any of it. I just looked around and thought, this is who she really is, someone who fills space but never stays in it. At the front desk, the clerk looked confused when I said I was checking out alone. "Your wife?" he asked. "She's enjoying the spa," I said. "She'll stay longer. Please leave the remaining balance on her card." He nodded, printed the receipt, and wished me a safe flight. I smiled. 2 hours later, I was sitting in the airport lounge, my phone on the table. I opened my email and wrote to my lawyer, Oliver. Subject: immediate annulment. Grounds: misrepresentation. Emotional deception. Still attached to ex-partner. Prepare documents to sign tonight. By the time the plane took off, I was done thinking about Sharon. When I landed, I took a cab home, unlocked my door, and sat down in silence. Then the voicemails began. First 1, then 5, then 20. Bradley, are you insane? They said you checked out. You left me here? You're not serious. An hour later, her voice cracked. Brad, my card's declined. They're saying I owe $10,000. Please, I'm sorry. Nathan doesn't matter. Please pick up. I didn't. I just poured another drink and listened. Her panic played through the speaker. It took Sharon 5 days to show up. I saw her before she rang the bell. Security cameras don't lie. She was dragging 2 suitcases, her hair tied in a messy bun. She tried her old key. It didn't fit. A few seconds later, a silver sedan pulled into the driveway. Her mother, Najia, stepped out, perfectly dressed, expression sharp enough to cut glass. I opened the door before they could start pounding. Bradley, Najia said, her voice clipped. You left my daughter stranded in another country. No money, no help. What kind of man does that? The kind who listened to his wife compare him to her ex on their honeymoon, I said evenly. Najia's jaw tightened. That was a misunderstanding. Sharon was emotional. Sharon pushed past her mother's shoulder. Bradley, please don't make this worse. You embarrassed me. I said something stupid. You know I didn't mean it. You meant every word, I said. And now you're here because the suite came with a bill. She flinched, then looked around like she still owned the place. We need to talk inside. I stepped in front of the doorway. We don't. This is my home. You don't live here anymore. Najia crossed her arms. You can't just throw her out. She's your wife. Annulled, I said, and held up the document from Oliver. Filed and pending. For the first time, Sharon's composure cracked. Her voice dropped. You're ending it like this? Over one comment? No, I said quietly. Over what that comment meant. Sharon lingered one moment longer. You'll regret this, she whispered. Maybe, I said, and closed the door. The sound of the lock sliding into place was the cleanest noise I'd ever heard. The next afternoon, a pickup truck pulled into my driveway. Sharon climbed out first, her eyes red and puffy. A man followed, tall, wide-shouldered, the kind of guy who looked for reasons to start trouble. Carlos, her cousin. I was already ready. 12 boxes sat neatly outside, her clothes, makeup, shoes, all labeled. The front door was locked, cameras on. I stepped outside, keeping my voice even. Everything that's yours is there, I said. Take it and go. Sharon's tone trembled. You boxed my things like trash? They're not trash, I said. They're just not my problem anymore. She took a shaky breath. I need to get my desk. The drafting table. You told me it was ours. It's not, I said flatly. I built it before I met you. Carlos stepped forward, crossing his arms. Come on, man. Let her get her table. Don't make this ugly. It's already ugly, I said. You have 5 minutes. Sharon's tears stopped. Her voice hardened. You're cruel, Bradley. You think this makes you strong? You'll see what happens when you treat people like this. Carlos moved closer. You really gonna hide behind paperwork? Let her in. Step back, I said. He shoved me, hard. I stumbled but didn't fall. I just pulled out my phone and dialed. 911, I said clearly. I have 2 people trespassing and 1 just assaulted me. The house cameras are recording. That changed everything. Sharon froze. Carlos turned pale. When the police arrived, I let them talk first. Sharon cried on cue. Officer, he locked me out of my own home. He's abusive. That table is mine. The officer looked at me. I handed her the property deed, the annulment filing, and motioned to the boxes. She's here to collect her belongings. That's all. After checking everything, the officer sighed. Ma'am, you can't force your way in. Take your things and leave. Carlos muttered something under his breath as they carried the boxes to the truck. Sharon didn't look at me. She just said, You won't get away with this. I watched them drive off. I wasn't angry, just done. 3 months later, I sat across from Sharon in a small courtroom. She looked nothing like the woman I'd married. Her hair was darker, her smile practiced, her eyes tired. Sitting beside her was her lawyer, Paula, polished, confident, and clearly the kind who thrived on spectacle. Paula began her performance. Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Sharon Lewis, was abandoned in a foreign country by her husband. She suffered emotional trauma, humiliation, and financial hardship. Mr. Lewis acted with the intent to harm. We're seeking damages and recognition of marital assets, specifically a custom drafting table worth $35,000, which symbolizes their shared vision. It took everything in me not to laugh. My lawyer, Oliver, waited for his turn. He was calm, older, and allergic to drama. Your Honor, he said, standing slowly, this marriage lasted 4 days. There were no shared assets. The table in question was built by Mr. Lewis years before he met the plaintiff. Here are photographs, timestamps, and a certificate of design registration. He placed a folder on the desk. Paula frowned, flipping through it. And as for abandonment, Oliver continued, we have a series of incidents from the honeymoon where Mrs. Lewis compares my client to her ex-boyfriend, Nathan, multiple times, and states, quote, Nathan would have gotten me the suite. The judge leaned back. Mrs. Lewis, do you deny these are your words? Sharon's lips trembled. I was emotional, she said. It doesn't mean I didn't love him. Oliver looked at me. I nodded once. He added, Your Honor, we also have evidence of a physical altercation at Mr. Lewis's residence involving her cousin, Carlos, recorded on video. My client chose not to press charges. The judge's expression hardened. Paula tried to recover, but the tone in the room had shifted. The performance was over. The judge didn't take long to rule. The annulment is granted, he said firmly. This marriage is void due to misrepresentation. There will be no spousal support and no division of property. The plaintiff's claims are dismissed. Additionally, Mrs. Lewis will pay 25% of the defendant's legal fees for filing false statements. The gavel came down. Just like that, it was over. Sharon sat frozen. Her eyes darted between me, the judge, and her lawyer, Paula, who suddenly looked a lot less confident. When the bailiff announced recess, Sharon stood up, whispering something to Paula, who only shook her head. Outside the courtroom, she caught up to me. You humiliated me, she said quietly, in front of everyone. No, I said. You did that yourself. She didn't reply. She just turned and walked away. A month later, Najia sent an email. You ruined her. She's lost everything. You're heartless, Bradley. Do you feel proud? I typed back, I feel free. Then I hit send and blocked her. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard that Sharon moved back in with her mother. She sold her designer bags online and took freelance work that barely paid rent. Carlos stopped answering her calls after the police report. She started posting old vacation photos on social media, pretending everything was perfect, the usual illusion. But the truth had settled in. The lifestyle she'd wanted so badly, the validation she chased through other people's wallets, it was gone. I didn't gloat. I didn't reach out. I just went on with my work, steady as ever. Sometimes late at night, I'd think about that moment in Bali, her whisper, the waves behind her voice, the arrogance in her tone. That was the day the marriage ended. The rest was paperwork. 6 months later, life felt like it had finally gone quiet. On my drafting table, the same one Sharon tried to claim, sat a new blueprint I'd been working on for weeks. I poured a drink, opened the final envelope from Oliver, and read the first line. Finalized. Annulment confirmed. All claims dismissed. Case closed. No fanfare, no drama, just the ending I'd earned. I scrolled through my phone for a moment. No missed calls, no messages, no chaos. The silence was better than any music. I walked to the balcony and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Sharon was probably still trying to rebuild her image. New filters, new captions, same emptiness underneath. And me? I was free. I'd lost a wedding deposit, a few months of savings, and a few days of a supposed paradise trip. But I kept my dignity, my home, and my future. That was the trade I'd make again without hesitation. When she said, my ex would have gotten me the suite, I smiled and said, let me fix that. I just didn't tell her how I planned to. Thank you for watching.